1, 2, 3, 2, 2, 3. First notes of the day. Well, at any rate, so there's some blackmail for you. Uh, all right. Someday my prince will come. I might have to go back and edit this one. I swear, I've been trying to knock these out just because the thought of having to edit these makes me not even want to do them. So so I figure I might as well do a less than perfect one, and maybe you can get something out of it. So let's dive into the tune here. Someday my prince will come. So I tried to do kind of the pedal thing at the beginning of the miles. I tried to simulate that. I know I'm not doing it exactly like it, but what they do is they kind of pedal on the 5, which that's a good like intro kind of thing. And yeah, I believe it's Wynton Kelly, Paul Chambers, and Jimmy Cobb on that recording. But yeah, I just kind of was doing like a B flat. Let me switch it up here. I'm getting my different shots together. So I got kind of like a B flat triad, and then that would be like an E triad. Let's see. Maybe I could see here. Teaching. There we go. All right, so dig this. I'm doing the high F, so this will be 8th fret. And then, start off with just a triad there. So you got your root, 3rd, 5th. Coffee hasn't kicked in yet this morning. Nevertheless, we persist. All right. And then there's kind of this triad thing here. You could say it's so that would be like E over F. But what's really going on there is you can think of this as kind of like if you were to put a G over it. So imagine like this whole thing is a 1, 6, 2, 5, right? You know, it's kind of this cycling kind of thing, you know. So that first triad, that E, if we looked at it in terms of over a G, which I know is not there, but hence the pedal point. So the pedal point is we're not going to play the actual root note, we're just going to hang out on this note. So we could think of this, so what do you get there? You get G, you get F, so there's your flat 7. You get E, there's your 13. G sharp would be the flat 9, and then B would be the third. So you have a G13 flat 9 kind of vibe there. So if I put a G over that, another way that, you know, just since we're on the topic, you know, if you're collecting cool voicings, Stevie Wonder uses that all the time. I'm trying to think of like what, of course I can't think of the tune right now, but you know, I think of stuff outside of jazz, which I know there's a lot of jazz elements to Stevie Wonder, but you know, yeah, I think it's you are the sunshine of my life. So that's an A13 flat 9. So this would be, if this is 3rd fret, G13 flat 9. I also see like Anthony Wilson and a lot of people, like, especially I've been digging that Live at Paris concert, and he's using that shape all the time. That's great. So not to bore you to death with that, but now if we kept this pedal point and that, you know, I'm going to just copy and paste this so you can kind of get the effect. So let's say, all right. So what we do after that is we take that same shape and we just lower it a fret, right? You can bar it straight across if you want. You can do something like this, you know, what did I do there? You know, however you want to accomplish that. That is now going to be an E flat over F. So if we think of F and you take the notes of E flat, G flat, that gives you this flat 7, gives you the 11th, and it gives you, wait, no, that's not 11, that's a 9. All right, and then B flat is the 11. So you could say sus 11, sus 9, we got an F, sus 9. That's definitely like a piano player thing where like they're used to like playing you know, a note in the left hand and they'll play something in the right. I know like slash chords kind of you know, frustrate people, but once you kind of get the theory behind it, it's kind of cool to see how, you know, by just picking a bass note and putting a triad above it, you can accomplish a lot of sounds. And that's often what we're doing on guitar anyways. We don't have, you know, 10 fingers. We have 6 strings, which, and most of the time we're not using all of them anyways in our voicings. It's usually like 3 to 4 note voicings. So the idea of upper structure triads, which I guess you could call this would be, the fancy name is upper structure triads. The idea of taking triads at the top and that are, you know, that imply different chords. So, and then we got our F13 flat 9. So this would be same deal. So there's your root, there's your 3rd, there's your 13th, and there's your flat 9. All right. Yeah, that's just something that I always do. You know, it's not the only way, but there you have it. Let's see here. Where was I? Oh. Someday my place. Okay. So let's just start off with the melody here. I kind of started playing the melody an octave too high, you know. interesting seeing this written out because I'm so used to hearing like the Miles version. People typically take a lot of liberties with this. So, I know Maya. So this video is for Maya and Ben. So the year is 2025. The year of our Lord 2025. So, Maya sings this, so she probably has the lyrics in mind. So, I am super guilty of not knowing the lyrics to songs. I know I should, but do as I say, not as I do. But a thing I do notice, if I do know the lyrics and I know the song, I do take more care because I'm singing the lyrics in my head. So like sometimes if you're taking liberties as an instrumentalist and you leave some of those notes out, that can frustrate someone that knows the words because they're like, man, you're leaving the words out. You're not even playing the song. So all that to say, it's kind of interesting to see how much I've been leaving out. So yeah, most people when I hear that they kind of approximate those sounds. That you can embellish it, right? So pick your road, go for it. What I like about this is especially the first 4 measures of the melody. I guess it's the first 8 measures of the melody. So you have a sequence there, and what's cool that's going on there is you have a thing that you call enclosure. Not to get super technical, but it's a jazz class, so we should probably at least introduce this term so you can kind of have an idea what's going on. Where's my cage diagrams? All right, let me delete this real quick. So I am playing this in B flat. So I'm going to go for a G shape. So you got 5. So bum, bum, bum. Then sharp 5. Da, dun, 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 dun. So what's going on here is the sharp 5, 7 to 6, because you're targeting this note, right? So you're going a half step below. I mean, if you want to throw that other note, that's cool. That's a cool cliche right there. But I'm looking at chromatic below because that note does not normally occur. It's a sharp 5, right? So that will be a chromatic below, diatonic above, if you want to really get into the classification. And then we do the same thing, only this time we target the second note, which is the goal. So, the first time you were targeting G, which is the third of E flat. See if I can zoom in here so you can see the melody, what I'm talking about. All right. So right there, that's like some good language to figure out, if this was a melody you wanted to take through different keys, that could be a good way to kind of work that out in different cage systems to kind of learn how to use enclosure. Other than that, the melody's pretty straightforward. The second half, there's a little bit of a turn, so... Interesting. Let's see. I guess I've been playing that wrong. I've been finding out as I've been having to teach these tunes. They say when you teach, you learn a lot yourself, and I'm realizing how many mistakes I'm probably making with these melodies. Oh well. So what I am realizing here is that B natural, I've not been playing it that way, and I certainly didn't play that way in the. So whole melody. It's a beautiful melody, right? Um, let's talk about the chord shapes real quick. So I was able to kind of mostly accomplish that. I had to grab that C, I had to kind of go out of pattern 3, but hey, that's life. Eventually you're jumping all over the neck. So what am I looking for? I'm looking for my, there we go, chord diagrams. So I did that intro thing here. If you're that interested, you can always rewind it, go watch that. So now that I'm kind of getting into this, I've been experimenting back and forth, going big iPad and little guitar. So I'm going to, all right, B flat major 7. I think everybody knows this one. A lot of times I'll put a 6/9 chord there. So, I'm going to put 6/9. That's cool. You can also do just major 7th. So, both are kind of like tonic function. The melody note's an F, so both those voicings work great. So again, like this is a 6/9. That's more of a major 7. I like the 6/9 because it's chordal, it's more open sounding. I tend to kind of default to that. It seems to be like a good catch-all chord, so I use that a lot more than sometimes a traditional major 7th shape. So I'll let you figure that out. The D7. If you can do this, my finger can't do this, but if you can roll your pinky. Some people take their pinky and see. Let me switch to a bigger view. They can. It's like taking a Hendrix chord, right? The old D7 sharp. And then if I were to roll my pinky, which I can't do that with my. You could get a 9 on top. Another way you could do it, you could play it up there on different string sets. So this would be like root here, that'd be 10th fret, D7, sharp 5, sharp 9. That gives you the 3rd, flat 7, sharp 9, 5, or sharp 5. And I do like that range. Something about that. It's like that's a nice, really warm part of the neck. This is more biting. This is more mellow, but it's cool. I like how the overtones interact in that range and on those string sets. It's great. So, and for the E flat 7, you could do a regular E flat major 7 shape, or you could do that 6/9 shape that I showed before. I was playing in the play along. I was just doing sharp 9. You don't have to always add like all the extensions. They like, you can say that's just D7 altered, but and I think I was doing E major 9, but you could also do a major 7th there. Then you got your G7 sharp 5. I'm not going to write out the major 7th one. I think everybody knows that one by now, hopefully. Flat 7, 3, sharp 5, G7, sharp 5. And I've been putting making that a minor 9, because if you go here, there you go, that's the 9th. And I just like the way that it's a good voice leading thing. So if I go from G7 sharp 9 to C minor 9, I have to have more coffee. I'm going to be doing these morning ones. Okay. And then there's a couple ways to deal with this, like flat 3 diminished to 5, which is another great common. I like these voicings. You could do it. So maybe I'll show you both. I'll show you the one that I like the most first, and then so D minor 7, and then D flat diminished 7th would be this. Here's a cool thing. You can actually add this a lot of times. I guess what would that be, like a flat 13, or let's see, what was it? Like sharp 5, I don't know. I don't see this notated a ton. If you see something like that out there, let me know. But it's kind of like what we do with like the sharp 9, flat 9. Right. But if I change the note up a fourth, or down a fourth, I should say, that's a nice sound, and it also mirrors what's going on in the melody. You know. And if you wanted to still grab the melody, you could do a C minor 11. That's a cool shape. I think they probably just go to a 5 chord. You can also do a tritone sub there if you want to. So I've been talking about some tritone subs in these. So I'm just gonna. It's super easy. It sounds complicated, but for guitar, generally for us, it's not too bad. So if I take like a garden variety C7, on guitar, a tritone looks like a diagonal. Like I just go up one. So there you go. There's like a tritone shape. Let's see, let me switch over to the bigger. So there you go. Maybe you can see that a little better. So when I do that, that gives me a tritone sub. So now that would be a, if I were to analyze this, this would be root, third, flat 3, or flat 7, and then the root. If I put a B underneath that, all of a sudden, in place of this, if I get rid of this, that is now the root, flat 7, third, flat 5, because sharp 11 kind of depends on the context. In this case, it would be a sharp 11. So, yeah, when it tritones and resolves down by a half step, that's Lydian dominant. We'll talk about that in another one. Right, it's just basically a mixed Lydian scale, but you sharp the 11th. 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, sharp 4, 5, 6, flat 7, root, 2, 3, sharp 11, 5, 6, flat 7, root. So, switch it up here. Cool stuff. All right, I think it's a rinse and repeat for the second A. The only thing we got to deal with is another thing that I've been making a mistake, or I have to go see where maybe I start playing this from jams, but when we get to this part where it starts to go to E flat, they do kind of like a, right? Oh wait, I forgot to do that. Just I get sidetracked. Let me do that real quick, and then we'll talk about that second half real quick. So go back, do that if you want, but see, you could do D minor 7. I kind of like doing it this way because I like having that note on top. So this would be D flat, diminished 7. But there's a cool thing, you can keep the note, the top note the same. So I don't know what you would call that. It looks like a, A2 over C, but that would be like a diminished sound, or like half diminished. That'd be fully diminished. I would just use the same shape for C minor 7. Third fret, fret. If you want to do like more of a traditional drop 2, that would look like this. D minor 7. I say traditional, I guess it'd be more kind of, these are the shapes normally people showed you at first, and what I put on that handout, you know, and it's a good place to start, you know, but I typically don't use those a ton personally. So these voicings stay on the A string through the B string, root flat 5, doubly flat 7. As in fully diminished, you have a doubly. You could call that a 6, but technically it's a double flatted 7. Doubly. Then C minor 7, 3rd fret. And then, you know, F7. Hopefully everybody knows that one. If you want to do a tritone sub, does that work? I kind of like this shape for if you want to like do a tritone sub, meaning like, so let's say you have an F7 chord, right? That'd be your F7. All right, and then if I did a tritone there, that would make that a B, B7 flat 9, but I don't really like the sound of that, so I'm going to add this. So now it looks like a B 7 sharp 11. Actually be a B9 sharp 11. So on top it kind of looks like a, there you go. So there you go. There's a bunch of stuff. There's a bunch of ideas. What else we got here? So we talked about that. We talked about the chords. There's a lot of stuff going on harmonically, and it's going by really fast. So you have a couple choices. You know, if you want, let's just call it like tier 1. You just want to get in the game. You can pretty much play B flat through the whole thing, and you know, as long as you pick the right notes. You know, so B flat you can harmonically generalize, which is usually a good first step. The other one I always, like I tell everybody, you know, play off the melody. So, but you know, really the what you want to get into here is nailing the changes, right? So let's kind of figure out how we would, you know, get through that. How are we doing on the time here? All right, we'll spend about 10 minutes talking about this. All these lessons have been kind of hovering around 40 minutes, which, you know, it's like if we had a private lesson together. I imagine they'll get more concise as I get better at this, but you know, right now you get the version of me that's starting out with this. So, actually not this. Speaking of starting out, let me get the right sheet up here. Cage diagram. So I'm going to try to make this all just work in pattern 3. First step is just finding the arpeggios. So, you know, hey, how are you? Man, I'll do something like that. I'll show you there. That's a good first step. I mean, of course, obviously you're not going to solo that way, but just to kind of start seeing these shapes in this context. So let me walk you through what I'm doing there. So with the one chord, you can do this. There's one, right? The other one you could do is that. I don't know if that makes sense. I kind of see it that way. I kind of see those shapes where, so that would be your one chord. And then the next chord is D7. So that would be a dominant chord built off of the 3. So we're gonna need a sharp 5 there. So we're gonna go there, there, to there, to there. All right. Obviously, you can find all the other notes, but I'm of the mind this is how I was taught, just 4-note arpeggios. Can't talk. And then Jens Larson, our friend from over the pond, he recommends this too. It's just like just start rather than trying to get the entire arpeggio. Most of the time, you don't have time to grab that when you're soloing. So start small, and then you can kind of start seeing these shapes in the meat of the instrument, as Jason Favis likes to say. Don't worry about the fringes when you're starting out. You can get that later. All right, so the next one is E flat, so a major 7th chord based off of the 4 chord. That's right. And then we have a dominant chord built off of the 6th. Up, down, so. And then we got our 2 chord. There's a couple places you can do one here, or you could do this. There's 2 octaves you can do there. Right? So pick one, Of course, you want to know both at some point, but when you're starting out, just pick one and go with it. Start getting those reps. And then you got our trusty 5-7 chord. If I'm adding the dots, do I have to do that go around the business, or I wonder if that's like more confusing. Let me know in the comments. Don't forget to like and subscribe. All that stuff. All right. So just even kind of like right out of the gate, those opening bars are, let me see. And I'm trying to go easy on the alterations. I know that's a G7 sharp 5, but I think since, if you want to try that, you can obviously take that G7 shape I gave you and just sharp the 5, and you're in the game. But I find, if you're starting out and just trying to get acquainted with the fretboard, just go kind of with the simple versions of these, All right, and now we got our D minor shape. So that's the 3 minor. All right. Trying to decide whether to erase or... All right. Okay. D minor shape is going to be this. All right. And then our... Sound like a pyre. Our flat 3 diminished. So, and then we probably know I already showed you the 2 and the 5. Right? And then so far, then you rinse and repeat. Times people will make this into a B flat 7. I would turn this into a 2-5 in the past, but now I'm wondering if I've been, one of the many mistakes I've been making for decades. playing this tune incorrect. But I kind of look at this as where they put that B flat 9. I'm going to kind of show you an idea that comes to mind. So this could be just basically, it's a walk up, right? You know, do this in a ton of videos, right? Think of the pet band, right? Charge or what, I don't know what they would say, but take a B9, but I'm going to go first inversion. So if I go B flat, boy, all right, there we go. B flat 9 with a D in the bass. So what does that look like? I'll come back to the arpeggios here in a second. Sorry. All right. Well, little theory lesson here. So let's say if I have a, hold on a second, I'm just going to switch this over there. So that's the default. All right. So if I go D, if I spell a D flat 9 chord, A flat, up to C. If I take these notes, what does that spell? What's that spell? It spells a D half diminished shape. And that was a trick a lot of my, like an old school trick my teachers showed me was that if you want to think of a 9 chord, just build a half diminished shape off of the third, you know. So if you think about that, you know, that works for like, if you think of like your, you know, your James Brown 9 shape, right? If I take it, that is a root position half diminished chord. So their idea of telling me that is that you wanted to get away from voicing the root in your voicings whenever you have a bass player, because the bass player is taking care of that. So your job as a composer is to take care of the upper extensions. I mean, of course, it's fine if you play the root, but this was kind of a tool they used to kind of help me kind of like expand my vocabulary. So, so if I'm going from, and then what's next after that? Yeah, E flat major 7, then E diminished. So we got our half diminished shape here, right? That'd be 5th fret. You could also make it 6/9 because I like keeping the F up top, you know. There's a couple ways you can play the diminished shape. Probably the most common way people will play it is E diminished 7. It's like this, where that's the 7th fret. You know, the root being on the 7th fret. But another shape that I've been using more and more that I've been getting a lot of mileage out of is this shape. Now, I like it because it plays nicely with other things. It doesn't have all the notes, which sometimes if you're playing with a piano player or other stuff, sometimes less is more, right? You don't want to, the more things that you know, voice, the more things that got to go right. So something like this that kind of doubles some notes. It's kind of like a, for whatever reason, that structure seems to play well, I've found on gigs. So and then you see they got that F over B flat major 7. I just play the triad, just like that intro thing I showed you. That kind of can walk chromatically up there. That kind of deal. So that's what's going on with the chords there. What do we do arpeggio-wise? So what I was doing on that 9 chord to kind of build in that bass line that walks up. Well, first of all, we'll start off with, you can do a major 7th, or right out of that gate, you know, sometimes I'll just do a dominant 7th, so it's going to be this guy. And then I build another triad off the 3rd, or sorry, a 7th chord off the 3rd. That's going to give you the upper extensions of that. All right? I feel good, right? You know. What's that thing? I feel good. Right? So that arpeggiates up to the 9th. And then we all know our E major 7th. sharp 4, diminished 7th. Right? And you know, you can do the charge, you know. You know, the idea of this is not to make you like an expert on, you know, arpeggios, but you know, these are things you want to work out, so you can, it's a more visualization thing, so you can kind of start getting comfortable with how this stuff looks in a particular position. So if I'm doing the whole form there, or let me just do that ending part. So right. So all right, I'm gonna go through all the shapes so you can kind of hear what that sounds like. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Hey, how are you? All right, so right there, that's a good project for you, just to, you know, have, the more you do this kind of stuff, the faster you'll be able to find these arpeggios. I know it feels like, God, I'm going to spend all this time on one tune, but you're not just working on this tune. You're working on every tune you're going to play after this. So many common chord movements, and you know, at a certain point, you know, you're going to know minor 7th, dominant 7th shapes. You're going to know the 7th arpeggio shapes and be able to recognize that. So I know it might feel overwhelming now, but I promise you, if you just keep steady work at this stuff, it's accumulative. It's like you're putting deposits in a saving account, you know, and that's accruing interest, and that stuff builds. I mean, learning is that way, you know, compound interest, you know, same deal. If you look at a learning curve, it's the same thing. It's exponential. You just, you know, don't let it overwhelm you. Just work on it, and believe me, you'd be amazed on how this kind of work can accumulate and really help. It'll help you in ways that you can't even anticipate right now. So the only other thing I would say here, 42 minutes. All right, this lesson's gotten long. That's enough for today. All right, so I'll get the other stuff on another lesson. Yeah, just start with the arpeggios, learn the chords, and then there's some scale stuff. All right, real quick. Here, use C harmonic minor. Any of that G7. It goes by fast, but you want to target that B natural because that's outside of the key. You know, and then, you know, that C sharp diminished thing, you know, it's diminished scale stuff. I might do a separate thing on just diminished scales. That's a whole topic in itself. But yeah, that's good. If you want to catch like an exotic scale, I could go more onto that. But like, yeah, dig that when it's, because it does that for like 4 measures. So boom, dun, 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 dun. So B flat, C harmonic minor, back to B flat. And you can get away with a lot if you just play nice and lyrically. I don't want to overuse the blues thing because it's kind of like a, you know, that's a good place to start, but sometimes it can be a crutch and a bit of a cheat code. I was talking about this in another video where like, you know, in wrestling where there's like, you can do a tag team thing where they can do a combo, or like, you know, you have like 10 seconds to do a combo move. I feel like the last 4 to 8 measures of a form, more often than not, you can like blues out and kind of ignore the changes and just start bluesing out. And more often than not, you'll get like a yeah from the crowd. It's kind of a cheat code. Good for starting out, and it's good worth talking about. But eventually, just keep in mind that at some point you want to kind of add other tools to your kit. You don't want to lean on that too much. So, all right. Hope some of that helps. See you around. Bye.